The draft is less than a week away, which means it's time for me to rank every NFL team before the 2023 NFL draft. Why? Because I have to let you know where they can improve during the 2023 NFL draft. What are their biggest needs? What concerns me about the roster and the team entering this season? That's how they can improve. I'm going to discuss their biggest needs, what they must address throughout the draft to get better and shoot up my power rankings. So before I give you my rankings, rank every NFL team from the worst to the best, number 32 to number 1. Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And let's go. Let's rank every NFL team. Kicking off my pre-draft 2023 NFL power rankings, at number 32, the worst team in the NFL entering the draft, in my opinion, is the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals not only have an absolute goofball at head coach, but they also have an absolute disaster of a roster that needs a lot more than they could possibly ever get in a single draft. That being said, where could the Cardinals improve? Mostly defensively, which is Jonathan Gannon's side of the football. Defensive line, pass rush, really needs some work. They lost Marcus Golden. Chandler Jones left a season before that. They have no corners to speak of anymore. Byron Murphy, their best one from a year ago, he left as well. Budda Baker kind of wants to leave too. Yeah, they've got some good offensive playmakers, but DeAndre Hopkins is probably going to want to leave. When is Kyler Murray going to play? I have no idea, but obviously you've paid him way too much money to worry about quarterback, even though you probably are going to end up with a top 3 pick next year in a position to get a great quarterback in next year's draft, which is looking like a prime quarterback class. The Cardinals are a mess, man, but they need to address defensive line, defense, give Jonathan Gannon pieces to work with like he had in Philadelphia. I believe that's where Arizona will go early in this draft. At number 31, the Houston Texans. Yes, the Houston Texans, a team that I really have a lot more faith in, a lot more hope for than the Arizona Cardinals. And it all begins with their new head coach, DeMeco Ryans. A presence, a charismatic presence, a leader for the Texans into the future. And I believe DeMeco Ryans, the biggest question you need to answer for him this year, in this year's draft, is what are we going to do for you in kicking off your regime on the right foot? Is that taking the long approach, playing the long game, and waiting till next year to pick a quarterback high in the draft, because you're going to have a high pick next year regardless? Or is it take CJ Stroud, my guy? And you know I like CJ Stroud, so I'd be down for taking CJ Stroud at 2. And then at 12, you take a defensive lineman, build that San Francisco-esque defensive line. Get the best of both worlds, as Hannah Montana would put it. But I think either way works. You still need to add playmakers. You still need to build that defensive line. I think Nick Caserio has done a good job with the offensive line. There's still some pieces to add, though. The Texans are one of those teams I could see shocking the NFL this year if they get the quarterback this offseason that can take them to a few more wins than they've had recently. And DeMeco can work his magic on defense. But I wouldn't be mad at them either if they took one more year to find that quarterback. So they're a tricky one, but I have them at number 31. At number 30, honestly, simply out of respect for Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, and Sean McVay, I have the Los Angeles Rams, who literally need everything in the 2023 NFL draft. I can't narrow it down to 3 things, because this team is basically an expansion team. I mean, name me their defense. I mean, I will give somebody in the comment section a cookie if they can, without going to our lads, name me 5 Rams defenders. Okay? A gold star. The Rams have nobody. Their depth chart is completely empty. It is talentless. I pray for Matthew Stafford. Honestly, they should be looking to trade him. Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald. I mean, Donald should have retired. Kupp should be getting traded. This is a tough situation. They won a Super Bowl, but at what cost, Sean McVay? At what cost? You're at number 30. You need everything. At number 29, it is the Bears. The Chicago Bears are at number 29. And I know Nicholas Gill is going to be very upset with me. But look, the Chicago Bears, man, they still aren't good. Like, this is the team that in free agency on the first day, wham, just like signed everybody they possibly could get their hands on. But they really didn't improve that much. I mean, sure, they added a little bit to the O-line. They got DJ Moore. That was a great trade. They traded that first pick away. But I will say this, if Justin Fields isn't the dude, is it really a good trade? And I don't know. Justin Fields hasn't proven he could throw the forward pass. So I'm still waiting on that one. They need offensive line help to help protect Justin Fields and help him succeed. Otherwise, offensively, they're fine. They don't really need anything else. Defensively is where they need help. Now, luckily, their coach is a defensive guy. He'll have a good idea, and he'll be able to elevate those players as I thought he did last year. But they need a lot of help on the defensive line, interior and edge. They could use some help in the secondary. They've got their linebackers now, but they're still missing a ton of pieces. I would have thought I would have ranked this team a lot higher based on free agency, but they simply are still far away. At number 28, I have the Indianapolis Colts. Shout out to Parth. The Indianapolis Colts. They need a quarterback, man. I mean, they need a quarterback. How many seasons are they going to go with the retirement home quarterback? Phillip Rivers. Matt Ryan. Carson Wentz might as well have been in a retirement home with all of the injuries. Andrew Luck, where has he been at? They need a quarterback. Gardner Minshew is my boy, but are you really going to go into the year with Gardner Minshew? Are you? I like some of the pieces. I still feel like this roster is better than most people give it credit for. They need to improve left tackle, unless they believe their third round pick last year is the answer. They need to improve the interior a little bit. They've got a couple receivers. I like Alec Pierce. I love Michael Pittman. Jonathan Taylor's there. For whatever reason, they're obsessed with their tight ends, even though they're no good. Defensively, they've got some good pieces, especially on the D-line. A couple in the secondary. Leonard at linebacker, hopefully healthy, but corner could use some help. So not really anything super pressing other than quarterback and getting that quarterback some protection. From there, that's really what you have to nail. It's just so happens to be really hard for the Colts to figure out. At number 27, you may be noticing a theme, but at number 27, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's another team without a quarterback, or at least one that I trust. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have Baker Mayfield, which I know Buccaneers fans, you really want Baker Mayfield to be the guy. But I'm just telling you, bro, I understand his commercials are fantastic. There's a reason I call him Baker, the commercial maker. But you can't buy into the hype of the commercial, bro. Watch the quarterbacking. In Carolina, it was ugly. Now, maybe you get a sprinkle of magic from the Bake Man, but I still think I have questions about the team. You don't have the greatest player to exist this year. So he's not going to be able to elevate everything on this team and in this franchise. That includes your coach, Todd Bowles. I'm not so sold he's the guy. I like what you did with the OC. I like the change. I think the O-line could use some help still, but it's not in super dire need of an upgrade through the draft. I think where you should go is defense, especially edge rusher. They just felt old and slow last year on defense, especially in the front seven. If Devin White's gone, maybe you look to linebacker to replace him. Levante David's also getting older. Secondary's already fairly good, but you've needed a nickel for years, so please address it. Speed on offense could also be something that you utilize. But if you're not going to go quarterback, just make sure that you surround whoever that future guy is going to be with some young studs on both sides of the football. The Bucs, I just don't trust the coach or the quarterback. At number 26, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Atlanta Falcons are a football team that I really look at and say, if they had a quarterback, I'd be in. I'd be in on the Atlanta Falcons. But for some reason, they demand that Desmond Ridder, the Riddler, is their guy. I mean, come on. He's not the guy? Why are you trying to fool me? I can see through it. You've got a good offensive line. Signed. Young. Running backs. Receivers. Tight ends. Maybe you could use another receiver. But I'm not too crazy about adding anything on offense other than a quarterback. And then defensively, your corner situation, you could use one for sure. But AJ Terrell is a stud. Safety, you got a stud, Jesse Bates. You added to the linebacker position. You got some defensive linemen around Grady Jarrett. You could use an edge rusher. So really, there's three clear needs. Corner, edge, quarterback. I don't know why they are not in this quarterback discussion. I don't get it. This is what frustrates me. But they still could be somewhat good this year, which also frustrates me. At number 25, the Green Bay Packers. I've really been trying to sell myself that the Green Bay Packers are going to be fine without Aaron Rodgers. But then for some reason, I sat back today and I said, why am I trusting Joe Barry to have a good team without Aaron Rodgers? I mean, Matt LaFleur isn't bad. But when you realize that the guy gets a haircut every 2 days, and he's not really grinding the film like that, and his Hall of Fame quarterback was carrying him for most of the time, you sit back and you realize that this team needs a receiver. You sit back and you realize that this team needs a safety. You sit back, you realize that the O-line, will it still be as good without Aaron Rodgers? You realize Aaron Jones is getting a bit older. You realize David Bakhtiari only plays 7 games a year. You realize that Rashawn Gary's coming back off injury. You realize that their first round picks last year didn't really do anything to move the dial from Georgia there. And you realize that Joe Barry can have a great defense from a talent standpoint and just underwhelm completely from a production standpoint. So all of these things, as much as I love Christian Watson, I can't overlook. And as much as the love affair must begin, I can't overlook that this team might be too in love with what's already on the team and not in love enough with making moves to upgrade the team. And I don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. Is the guy just going to retire? I have no idea. At number 24, the Tennessee Titans. And this is simply Mike Vrabel. I do not care who's on the team, who's throwing the ball, who's running the ball, who's catching the ball, who's defending the ball. It's Mike Vrabel. I don't need to know any other information. I am not putting Mike Vrabel in my bottom 5. I don't care. But that being said, when we actually closely look at the Tennessee Titans, their defense is really good on paper. I love the additions of Al-Shahir, and I love the return of Harold Landry. I like the addition of Arden Key, Sean Murphy-Bunting. I think they address some big needs in free agency. I also loved how they added some low-key names through the offensive line, like Daniel Brunskill is one of my favorites. Andre Dillard could be a breakout player from the Philadelphia Eagles who never really got his opportunity but was a first-round pick. I think they need a receiver, big time. Ryan Tannehill can get it done, but he's a short-term answer, so do they look at quarterback? The offensive line definitely needs help, but they did plug some holes in free agency. There's been rumors about trading Derrick Henry to the Eagles or somebody potentially. What would that give them in return? More cap space probably, and probably not a great pick, but this is a team clearly in transition, but I feel like they still have enough to compete in a very weak division this year. At number 23, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders actually, it's weird because I was a Derek Carr fan the last couple of years, but I have like this new kind of calming about Jimmy Garoppolo being the quarterback of the Raiders. I don't really know what it is. I mean, yes, the guy's handsome, but like, I think it's just going to work. I think Jimmy Garoppolo and Josh McDaniels is going to work. Like, I think the offense is going to be good. I think it's going to have more rhythm, more consistency than it did with Derek Carr. I just think there's this understanding between Garoppolo and McDaniels that maybe Carr and McDaniels didn't have. And then you throw in Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, who was already a double agent for them last year, Hunter Renfrow, my guy, an automatic first down Austin Hooper, and an offensive line that everyone says they must address, but is super underrated. Honestly, probably the most underrated offensive line in football. And defensively is where they must go. Corner, safety, linebacker, defensive line. Please, any position on defense. Just add it, and I think the Raiders will be good. Like, unless CJ Stroud drops to their hands at number 7, I just pick defense. I pick Devin Witherspoon. I pick Gonzalez. I pick whoever I want there at number 7. And I continue to build this defense and make the Raiders a competitive team now. Because that's what McDaniels needs to keep his job. So I think the Raiders go defense, defense, defense. At number 22, the Washington Commanders with new ownership. Congratulations to the Commanders, the Commies. But Ron Rivera somehow is running the scheme of the decade. I don't know how this guy still has a job, but he does. Nonetheless, because he still has a job with Jack Del Rio, who I still don't know how he has a job either, they are going to be one of the most average mid football teams that there is because that's just what they do, brother. So, the Washington Commanders with Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell, whoever they have at quarterback, they refuse to take a quarterback. Okay, you're going to be mid. You got great receivers. I like Eric Bieniemy coming into the fold, freshening up this very bland coaching staff. The offensive line is about as average as it can get. It could use maybe a youth upgrade there at tackle especially. Maybe guard. The defense definitely could use some work. I love the front four. I honestly don't think they get enough out of that front four. The linebacker position still needs help. I know you invested a first-round pick on it a couple of years ago. It still needs help. You need a cornerback, especially a perimeter cornerback. There's areas that Washington could improve, but I really look at the Commanders and I say if they just had a good quarterback, they would be one of the more complete teams in the NFC. And that just goes to show you, a team like the Commanders, how much a quarterback, a good quarterback, helps a team. Because you look at the Commanders now with the Jacoby Brissett type, and you say there are 7-8 wins. With Lamar, with one of those guys that they could go get, they would win 11, 12 games maybe in that conference. I believe that. even with Ron Rivera. So I got the Commanders probably taking a corner in the draft, helping that defense, but I don't know if that's the right approach, honestly. At number 21, the New York Jets. Is Aaron Rodgers coming? Is he? That's why I got you at number 21, because I can't figure it out. I'm done believing that he's already on your team. I know that he went on Pat McAfee and he said that he wants to go to the Jets. I have seen no confirmation, so until it happens, I am not moving you up in my power rankings. Because if you do not have Aaron Rodgers, you are the worst team in the AFC East. I don't care how many freaky dudes you have on defense, you're the worst team in the AFC East. So figure out quarterback. From there, you got to protect that quarterback. If it's Aaron Rodgers, get him a right tackle, get him a center. And then maybe you could add some depth to the defense. Maybe you could add another receiver, because I don't think Mecole Hardman or Alan Lazard really moved the dial for me. Corey Davis I don't know if he's still going to be on the team by August. So a receiver as well in the draft could be a sneaky addition. But the Jets are one of those teams, they're a wild card. If they get Aaron Rodgers, they could be a contender. If they don't get Aaron Rodgers, they're a definite last place in their division, because Zach Wilson ain't winning anything. So that's why I have the Jets here. At number 20, the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton. He already addressed the offensive line, but he could still use a center in the draft to fully complete his starting five, protecting Russell Wilson. I personally think that wide receiver does need an upgrade. I understand everyone loves Jerry Jeudy, but has he lived up to his billing? Has he lived up to his draft status? No. Is he an explosive guy that fits Russell Wilson? No, he doesn't. Okay, so I think they need an explosive speed guy. Will they get that in the draft? I don't know. Cortland Sutton doesn't seem like the same guy to me. Tim Patrick, I like him, but he's nothing special. So I honestly think receiver, too. Running back, I think you're good as long as Devontae can come back healthy. Defensively, I think corner could be an add. I think linebacker, I think edge. Remember, they traded Von Miller, or they got rid of Von Miller. And they traded Bradley Chubb. So they've gone through some edge players in recent history, and they need to replace them. So Broncos will mostly be working on their defense, completing the offensive line, but I really think they should be looking at receiver and helping Russ to really succeed. At number 19, the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, they have the number 1 pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, and they're taking Bryce Young despite my well wishes of taking CJ Stroud. They're going to take Bryce Young. That's fine. Whatever. I like Bryce Young. He's cool. Despite people thinking I hate him. It's cool, though. Keep pounding. Carolina Panthers elsewhere. I think offensive line is pretty good. Receiver, you could use a number 1. But you got Adam Thielen. I think you like Marshall enough. You have enough there at tight end, Hayden Hurst. Running back, Miles Sanders. You've got some playmakers. I just don't know if you have the go-to guy for Bryce. Defensively, defensive line around Brown could use some help. The interior. Edge opposite Brent Burns. Not Brent Burns, the defenseman of the Carolina Hurricanes. I meant Brian Burns, the edge rusher. Hockey on the mind. And then you also have probably even the secondary, maybe. So Carolina, I like as an up-and-coming team, but they're going to nail quarterback, hopefully. And then from there, defensive front 7 would probably seem like most likely destination in the draft. And from there, maybe you're winning the NFC South. I don't know. At number 18, the New Orleans Saints. I think when you look at the Saints roster, they're a lot better than I think a lot of people give them credit for. They did lose seemingly a lot of pieces, though. Like, they lost Onyemata. They lost first-round pick Marcus Davenport. They lost pieces this offseason. But, man, they still got good players. Like Marshawn Lattimore, Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May. And then you go to the front seven again. Demario Davis. And then you go to Michael Thomas if he can actually stay healthy. Why is this guy lifting all this weight? He's just going to hurt his hamstring, bro. Take it easy. And then you got Chris Olave. You got Alvin Kamara if he's not doing whatever he's doing in his off time. And then you've got Juwan Johnson signing a contract. The offensive line is decent enough. And you've got some really good players on there. Derek Carr hopefully could just be good. And you should be able to compete for this division, if not win it. But I also have questions about coaching. So honestly, it's not the Saints roster really that worries me a lot. Part of it is the X factor of age and how this roster will age this year. Part of it is how does Derek Carr fit? Part of it is what's up with Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, because they're hit and miss. Dennis Allen is a big factor for me. But in the draft, I think they just add some youth to the defense. And I really think maybe like a depth receiver. But other than that, I don't think they're going to do a heck of a ton or make any crazy moves. I think it's mostly going to be youth for the defense here. At number 17, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Got their quarterback, Kenny Pickett. Now it's about helping Kenny Pickett. They got a receiver, Allen Robinson, even though he's slower than Cesar Blanco running backwards. Okay? Now, that being said, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Pat, Najee, good guard play, Sayamalu, Daniels. I almost forgot they got both of those guys. And now you got tackles, man. That's what's up next. It's tackle season in Pittsburgh. And then you've got defense. Interior defensive line, maybe corner. Although I look at their depth chart and I say they got a lot of veterans at corner that I think can fill in what they want fairly well. Safety is also a huge question for me. Keanu Neal and DeMonte KZ, the 2016 Falcons, or 2017 Falcons. I don't know if that's getting the job done. I'm sorry. So, Steelers, a couple positions on defense, tackle, you'll move up my rankings. And the real X factor is how good does Kenny Pickett get in year 2? At number 16, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings have a few holes, primarily on defense. Of course, this was the worst defense, in my opinion, in all of football last year. The Minnesota Vikings. By the way, remind me to do after the season rankings of like offenses and defenses. I think that would be a good idea. Let me know in the comment section below. But defensive line could definitely use some help. It's not going to be a Brian Flores defense without big, tough dudes in the interior and man coverage corners. So that's another position they need. Otherwise, defensively, I like the edge rushers. I think the safeties are fine. Linebackers are passable. Offensively, pretty good O-line, especially with Darisaw coming into his own. Cousins, I don't know what's going on with Cook. Of course, you got Justin Jefferson. You've got TJ Hawkinson. You need another receiver. You need a complement. You need the replacement for Adam Thielen, a younger, shiftier guy. Maybe they don't go first round. Maybe they address defense first round, and then they take a receiver second, third round. But I think that's where they need to go. Help Brian Flores defensively. Add another weapon for Kirk Cousins, and I think he'll be back in similar position to last year. At number 15, the New York G-Men. The New York Giants are at number 15. And you guys know I've been worried about the G-Men. I've been worried about the Giants. I just haven't felt confident about them entering 2023. But they only have a couple areas where I'm really concerned. And it's corner. It's maybe the interior offensive line. It's maybe that they don't have a number one receiver. But I honestly think most of it is just like, can they repeat what they did last year? Can Daniel Jones take a step forward? Because that's honestly what has to happen for them to get back where they were or to get better than what they were. Daniel Jones got to be that dude with the money. And that's the question. And how do you make him better? Well, I think you go out, you get a receiver. I think you go out, you address his offensive line. So whatever that takes, that's what you do in this draft. I think you could still help Wink Martindale out with a corner, but maybe you go the veteran route. Maybe you try to buy like a mid-rounder, a guy that you can develop. Maybe you do go first round. But I think you try to invest in Daniel Jones, maximize that offense with Brian Daboll. I think that's the best way they can get further than where they were in 2023. At number 14, the Cleveland Browns. This is the sneakiest team in the NFL right now. I think, honestly, for obvious reasons. Because Deshaun Watson, nobody wants to talk about Deshaun Watson. I mean, literally nobody. Okay? Not even Browns fans want to talk about Deshaun Watson. So that means that the Browns will infinitely fall under the radar as long as Deshaun Watson is there for at least the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. Because they just don't want to talk about him. So that means the Browns have sneakily been getting better. I mean, you look at the offense, I have no place where they need to get better. Their receiving core is good enough, especially if Elijah Moore can come in and be that secondary presence. David Njoku, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, a really good O-line, Nick Chubb. If Watson can be Deshaun Watson, that's a really good offense. It's top 10. Defensively, I think I like the corner position a lot. I love the addition of Juan Thornhill, JOK at linebacker, Myles Garrett at edge, and you added Dalvin Tomlinson to D-tackle. So you got pieces everywhere. It's like filling out the rest of that depth chart. Maybe you got depth at edge or a big-time piece at edge or D-line. That would be nice. Maybe another linebacker or maybe another safety. But it's nothing super drastic here for Cleveland. And it would make sense because they don't have the greatest selection of picks. So I think they go defense, defense, defense. At number 13, the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are at number 13. I almost put them a little bit higher, but that was like getting ahead of myself. Like I'm projecting a little bit with the Seahawks because of what I think they'll do during the draft. And if I think I know what they'll do in the draft, I think that they will pick probably the most talented player in the entire draft, in my opinion, Mr. Carter from Ultras University. If you don't know, you're not a true BLV fan. Now, the Seattle Seahawks, I think will also possibly address edge or corner in this draft. And I think they'll do it effectively. I like the safety position. I like the linebacker position. I think they've got some pieces at edge and some pieces on the D-line, but they're still missing a couple at both positions. They've got some pieces at corner, but they're still missing one, maybe two. Offensively, I think they're mostly good. Like, the O-line's fine. Could it get better? Yes, but I don't think it needs to. Let's put it that way. I love the running back. I like Geno. I like the receivers. They could use a third receiver, but that's like a third, fourth pick maybe. And then you add a veteran. You got Noah Fant. I'm not worried about the playmakers. So Seattle, it's mostly going to be defense. Legion of Boom 2.0. Edge, D-line, corner. That's mostly what it's going to be about. And that's what it should be about at number 13. At number 12, here come the haters. Honestly, I could have put them higher. I could have put them a spot or two lower, but I'm going with the New England Patriots. Why am I going with the Patriots? Because people do not understand that the New England Patriots' biggest possible addition that they could make was an offensive friggin' coordinator. That's what people don't understand. They let go of big fat Matt and they brought in a real professional man named Billy O, who's going to make everybody better. He's going to make Mac Daddy Jones a better player. He's going to make Ramondre Stevenson a better player. Hunter Henry a better player. He's going to make the offensive line a better unit. He's going to make Kendrick Bourne and now Juju Smith-Schuster a better player. Mike Gesicki, his Penn State boy. This is a good offense now. We could use a number one receiver. Will I be upset if they don't pick Zay Flowers? Yes, a little bit. But I'll get over it because I think they've got enough there at playmaker. Tackle, they brought in some professionals to at least help with the depth. Riley Reif is a professional tackle. Calvin Anderson's got potential. I like what they did. They could still add in the draft. But the areas where I think they might go, receiver, tackle, corner. Corner would really get me excited. If it's Devin Witherspoon, I will jump out of my pants. Okay? But I like the defense already. I could also see them going with an edge player. I like Josh Uche. I love Matthew Judon. I like Christian Barmore. I like the defense. I'd like them to add linebacker, but I don't know if they will. I just don't know if they really love adding linebackers. Second, third round, maybe. But I think this roster is significantly slept on because of how bad the coaching was last year. At number 11, I got the LA Chargers. Now, I kind of thought that the Chargers lost a ton of people. They didn't necessarily. They still got Justin Herbert. I'm not going to try to go crazy here. They got Justin Herbert. I don't know what's going on with Austin Eckler. Nobody's provided me an update there. Connor McLeod has been letting me down in that category. Offensive line is okay. They could use another tackle at right tackle. Pipkins is fine. I'm not sold though. Wide receivers are still slower than molasses, so they could use a fast receiver. Tight end is decent with Everett. Defensively, is Khalil Mack going to stay there longer? Right? Boza and Mack, if they're healthy, are pretty dominant together. The interior D-line could use help against the run still. Linebacker is still kind of iffy. They're still trying to make Kenneth Murray work to be a great player. And then Eric Kendricks, I guess. I don't think he's as good as Drew Tranquil. He's better against a run. Derwin James, J.C. Jackson's back. Asante Samuel. I don't know if they're going to bring back Bryce Callahan. I don't think he signed anywhere yet. I don't recall. But the Chargers, still a really good roster. I think they could use a safety. I think they could use a linebacker, D lineman. I think they could use a receiver, an offensive lineman. But I think they will address all of those areas just in different preference. I think mostly offensive line, supporting Justin Herbert on offense. And then from there, I think they're going to attack the needs, the depth of the defense. At number 11. They're close still, the Chargers. Entering the top 10, at number 10, the Detroit Lions. The Lions, even though they're gambling all of their hopes and dreams away of winning the NFC North, I still believe. I still believe in the Lions. I'm still believing. Man, Jameson Williams is disappointing me, man. Man, come on, bro. You can't do that. But the Lions, I think they've got the draft. They've got it. They can do this. They can get an impact defender early in this draft, whether it be a corner like Gonzalez or Witherspoon. I like Witherspoon. Maybe they go with a defensive lineman. Maybe Carter falls right into their lap. Maybe they get an edge rusher again and pair him with Aiden Hutchinson. Maybe they go off the board with some position I don't see come. Maybe they go CJ Stroud if he falls. I don't know. But I think the Lions, they could just complete their defense. Complete their defense. If they want to go with the young quarterback, I understand. But I think complete their defense, and this is a team that could really take the NFC by storm as long as their players stop gambling in their free time. At number 9, the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, the Baltimore Ravens, a team that I know you didn't expect to see in the top 10. But it is called Rule 52. You do not bet against the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's coming back. OBJ is there. Now you've got Rashad Bateman, OBJ, Mark Andrews, Dobbins and Edwards. Enough weapons, Devin Duvernay, for me to get behind it. Nelson Aguilar. For me to get behind what you're doing with Lamar. New offensive coordinator. Really think that's a big deal. I do. I was sick of the old scheme. Defensively, they don't need a ton. They're hoping that the young edge rusher, Ojulari, I believe, is his name? No. Adebo? What's his name? Adebo. Nah. What's the guy from Michigan? You know his name. Anyways, they've got the linebackers. The interior defensive line is always beefy and always underrated. The corner position could use a young guy opposite Marlon Humphrey. Marcus Peters still a free agent, I believe. Safety is really, really strong. Overall, this is a team that could be really darn good that people are kind of sleeping on right now because of the whole Lamar stuff. But right now, I see them in the playoffs, especially if they address corner early in the draft. I really like their odds moving forward. At number 8, the Jacksonville Jags. Jacksonville has just quietly not done a lot, but they're sitting right there in the AFC. Wide receiver position got an upgrade with Calvin Ridley. They retained Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence another year to get better. Offensive line, yeah, Jawan Taylor left, but they've got a guy in the wings. I think they could add to the offensive line to help protect young Trevor, the prince that was promised according to Ultra. The defense, I still think, is one where they've got a lot of young guys that could explode, could get better, could break out. And that's where I really think they've got a lot of potential as a team. Secondary, I think they should add to corner. I think they should add to safety. But otherwise, Jacksonville doesn't have a lot of big needs. It really comes down to Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence, and these weapons on offense, and they're going to outscore a lot of teams, period. At number 7, the Miami Dolphins. Now, good for Tua, man, speaking his mind, letting us know where he's at with his career. Appreciate that, in all honesty. You know, you almost ruined football, but I will forgive you, Tua and Tuanon. Miami Dolphins, you've got a good football team. You got a lot of talented players, man. You do. You still need to add to the offensive line. Help Tua stay upright. If you go into the season with Austin Jackson, I don't know what to tell you. Okay? You got to improve that. Defensively, I think maybe nickel could be a position you add, but you don't have a lot there that you've got to upgrade. Linebackers good. D-line's good. Corners outside are good. Safeties are pretty good. Receivers are awesome. Tight end? Always will add a running back late. Will McDaniel. So, Miami, offensive line, tight end, nickel. That's it, really. Miami should be really good, but it depends on Tua's health, and it depends on Tua, period, if he can be good, if not better, than last year. At number 6, the Buffalo Bills. Now, it's weird because the Bills I have higher than Miami, but I think they've got a lot more areas they need to address in the draft. There's a lot more pressure on them in this draft because there's part of their roster getting older, like safety, that I think they could help add to. There's areas that look decently strong, like wide receiver, that I think they need. Like, this is a need. They need a number 2 receiver, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean they'll go there because on the surface, they've got Gabriel Davis. They've got some guys that they like to fill those spots. Offensive line, a position they could use an upgrade early in the draft. They need to protect Josh. Defensively, linebacker is another position they could help. They lost Edmonds, so they need to replace him. So Buffalo, yeah, they've got some talent everywhere on their roster, but they've got a lot of big holes that they haven't had in recent seasons, in my opinion. But Buffalo's still really good because they got Josh Allen. And they've got some talented players and some elite talents. So that's why they're here at number 6. Entering the top 5 at number 5, the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles. The Eagles are back in the top 5. Jalen Hurts got paid. The offensive line is stellar. Could they add some youth behind Lane Johnson at tackle? That's a possibility. They've got a great tight end. They've got great receivers. They don't need that. Running back is open. Bijan Robinson at number 10. That would be so fun and so electric. I'd love to see it happen. But I think more realistically, they go D-line, they go defense, maybe even corner, but they help their defense out. Linebackers also an ad that they could use later. Safety as well. Safety's kind of ugly for them right now. I think they need to use one pick on a safety relatively high. But the Eagles have a ton of talent. There's no denying it. It's kind of weird how their offseason worked out. I thought they were going to let go of the older guys, Brandon Graham and Fletcher, but they didn't, right? And they let go of Hargrave. They let go of Gardner Johnson, the guys that I thought they would retain. It's kind of weird. Darius Slay almost left, but he came back. So they were lucky in some degree, but the Eagles are still awesome. They lost players, but they're still awesome. And they could help areas that they significantly need to improve, like safety, maybe linebacker, like the depth of the D-line, the O-line, and like possibly running back. But they're still a top 5 team. At number 4, the San Francisco no quarterbacks. Because it's Kyle Shanahan, it doesn't even matter. If it's Sam Darnold, I'll believe he is the next great one at the quarterback position. Yes, Sam Darnold. You heard it here first. But the San Francisco 49ers got an awesome front 7. They will win games by themselves. But behind that front 7, they could use a safety. They could use a corner in this draft at some point. Offensively, they don't need anything really other than offensive line help, specifically right tackle. They lost Mike McGlinchey. I'm not sure if they have an adequate replacement right now, so that's probably where they're going to go with their top pick. Other than that, man, unless they can find an elite quarterback somewhere, Tom Brady, then I don't know what they could add. So I have them at number 4. At number 3, yes, Lenny, yes, Ultra. I was not lying. The best team in the NFC right now, in my opinion, the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, I'll say it again. How about them Cowboys at number 3? Why do I have the Cowboys at number 3? Look at their roster, you blind bat. They've got a great offensive line led by 2 Hall of Famers. Yes, they could utilize a little bit of depth for the tackle or guard position. I agree. It'll come in the draft. Wide receiver is fantastic, especially if Michael Gallup becomes Michael Gallup before last year, 1 year removed from the injury. Tony Pollard could use a running mate. Okay, we'll get him later in the draft, right? But Tony Pollard being the lead guy is a huge bonus because Zeke's not taking all his reps. Dak Prescott without a thumb injury, hopefully, or whatever he had last year, I don't remember, will be better. And then defensively, it's one of the best, if not the best defense in the league. If you told me the Dallas Cowboys are the best defense in the league, I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. I mean, they have a deadly fast defense. They've got a really good pass rush. Parsons, Armstrong, Lawrence, depth. Behind that, good linebacker play with LVE, Leighton Vander Esch, 3 good safeties, Donovan Wilson leading the way. They got Stephon friggin' Gilmore with Trayvon Diggs. I mean, look at the team. They can throw the ball, run the ball, and stop the pass at an elite level. So, I mean, the only real flaw that anyone could point to is if they don't trust the coaching staff. But personally, I'm not too low on them either. So I like the Cowboys a lot. In the draft, I think they go with likely offensive or defensive line early. And then from there, maybe tight end, maybe running back, just adding pieces that'll help them win now. At number 3. At number 2, the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are right there with the elite of the elite. Even though they lost their safety tandem, they did a good job of replacing it. Nick Scott comes from the Rams. I think he was an underrated pickup by the Bengals. I really like their front 7. I think it's super underrated on the D-line. The depth they have, the pass rushing capabilities, the versatility, great linebacker play. Corners could use maybe a slight upgrade. If they went corner, I wouldn't be shocked. If they went safety, I wouldn't be shocked. Offensively, offensive line is the obvious one. I don't think it's in too rough of shape in comparison to the last couple of years. But if they went offensive line, I wouldn't be mad at them. Tight end is another position. I wouldn't be mad at them if they went there to replace Hayden Hurst. Although they did sign Irv Smith, I believe. I don't really count on him to be a true starting tight end. Running back is maybe a sneaky addition. Gibbs would be phenomenal in this offense. I don't expect Bijan to be there, sorry. Wide receiver obviously is great. Quarterback's great. This is an elite team. They have a couple areas where they could add, but I mean, you know, Joe Burrow and the rest, Jamar Chase, are going to upgrade and lift up the rest of this roster. And the number 1 team in my power rankings before the draft is the Kansas City Chiefs. They won the Super Bowl. I'm not moving them off number 1 until somebody else gives me a good reason. The Chiefs are number 1. Mahomes, Andy Reid. Everything else is just like whatever. But Travis Kelce, he's pretty good too. Chris Jones, pretty good too. But the defense, I think defensive line, if they added someone there, I'd be happy. If they added another corner, I'd be happy. If they added a safety, I'd be happy. Like, there's areas where I don't think they necessarily they must get this. But I think they could add to the defense. But really, I think the biggest addition they could make is wide receiver. I really do. I think getting a wide receiver that could be a number 1 in this league would be huge. Like, Kadarius Toney is too injured too often for me to count on him to be that. Valdez-Scantling is too inconsistent. Sky Moore didn't really show me much as a rookie. So I'm looking to add a receiver if I can. And then otherwise, maybe tackle on the offensive line. Continue to invest there. But, I mean, this is a really good team for a reason. So the Chiefs are number 1 until proven otherwise. Those are my power rankings entering the draft. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, Gronk spike the like button and subscribe. More draft content coming. I hope this gave you a good idea of where I stand on your favorite team entering the 2023 NFL Draft. It's Mitch. Peace.